Okay. This entire time, I forgot to turn my mic on before the stream started. I'm so glad you let me know, Ibrahim. I just, wow. Whole time. Well, I was talking about how I'm making a prefab, about how this, I didn't put any of that in the folder, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm gonna lock that one. And yeah, none of it was heard, which means, yeah, the whole time. But you guys must have been enjoying the silence, because had some viewers anyway, in spite of that fact. But that might be why I had people coming and going. Let's see. I was saying at one point that Clint was telling me about he has an idea for how to program objects, like script objects, to actually move all at one time in a much better way than he had told me how to do it before. And I'm almost done with the shroud moving up and down, the pump going up and down. But I got to a point where it's moving just one object instead of all of them in a way that's not right. And it's not the moving that's the problem, though. The moving I had right and was working. It's the let's see, move all of this to strut B. The issue is that I'll show you in the program, in the script again, because I had shown it before, but obviously I didn't have my mic on. Why is it central structure body bigger? That's weird. I don't know why it expanded that one. So yeah, we're gonna select all of them and then deselect all of them, and then I'm gonna come out and deselect all again, just to be sure. So we'll save this. We now have the central structures done. I mean, obviously I just said I need to move them away from that railing, but I believe that's the central structure done, except for making the shroud move up and down. So right now it's just going to sit there and be pretty. But what I was going to show you about the scripting is that if you go in here, this is what I'm working with right now. So down here, it moves it every n seconds, every object, and this is the script that 100% works. We just, it's just not working right now for one particular reason. I tried to build this area out so that I could trigger when it moves up and down. And I probably overdid it. I bet Clint is going to say I've got twice as many nodes as I need. And we'll find out, because he says he's got a much better solution than even, I believe, this. He's not even going to do this the same way anymore. I think, from what he was saying. He didn't give me the full details. Have to go to Kevin Coolx if I want to get all the details. So we've got on game start. Basically, I get that prefab for each object. For each object, I get its position, and I get its vector z, and I pull it over here, and I set a number variable min z, have it scoped to object, so it should create. I didn't understand this before, and Clint explained it to me off stream yesterday. Is that I knew you could store variables inside of players, that you could put a variable into a player, and each player would have their own version of that variable. I did not fully understand how that worked. And so apparently you can do that with objects, and you just set the variable and you set the scope object and you apply it to, you basically do something like this. You declare it down here. Here's the identifier one, and then its scope is object, and then you say execute per object, and you set the number variable for that object, and it will supposedly just like create it and put it into that object. That might be what I'm doing wrong, actually, is exactly how I'm pulling this off, but we'll see. The point is that the value, I'm setting this value to its current z position, because what I want to do is I want to know the height at its minimum point, because that's where I built it at the minimum point. And then that'll be at the start of the match, it gets the minimum point, and then it's going to create a maximum point. It's going to grab its minimum point. It's going to add 200, so higher up in the air. And I'm just eyeballing 200 until it worked, and then it's not working. So I'm not going to change that until it's working, and then I know exactly how high I want it to go into the ceiling. But basically, that goes here. It gets added together, and it gets applied as the max Z. Now, essentially, what I am trying to do is at start I get the max and minimum Z for each object and attach it and put it inside the object. Then on custom event global for each object, I'm setting the number variable identifier, which is this one here. I've got the max Z, min Z, and I've got identifier here. So I've got this identifier. That's how fast it moves. It's direction because if it's negative, it'll go down. If it's positive, it'll go up based on the way this script works. So it's named direction. So the execute per object activates that set the number variable, and this should be running all the time. And what it does is it moves it until it reaches the minimum Z or the maximum Z, depending on which direction it's going. As soon as it gets outside of the range, the minimum and the maximum creates this range, and as soon as it gets outside that range, it stops moving. But if it's inside the range, it keeps moving, and it moves based on this variable here. So if this variable is positive, it's going to move up, and if it's negative, it'll go down. And once it goes outside that range, it'll stop moving. I've got it set to 0.25, so it'll raise slowly, and then I set to the movement, the direction to 0.25, so move up slowly, and I set object position really quickly. I grab its current direction, and I add 1 to it, and then I get the vector 3. I make that into a z-axis vector 3, and I set that to position. What that means is, right after I set it to 0.25, it's going to bump it up by 1.25, and the reason it does that is because it'll be outside the range to move up. This will only move it while it's inside the range, but it'll have already moved it. It'll be already below the range. So then, as soon as I want it to go up again, I need to bump it up into that range so that it'll catch here. You can think of it as like this is like a gear that it'll only catch this other point if it's in the teeth to be pulled up. So as soon as I bump it up into position, this gear will just take it, because this gear is spinning all the time, and all I gotta do is put it into position and it'll take it. So I'm doing that. It bumps it up into position, and it goes from there. Now this one is the same thing, but this area here is the same exact thing, but in reverse. This one on custom event global drop shroud. This one is raise shroud. It's a global event, so I can trigger it from a different script brain. And for each object, it's supposed to set to -1 and bump it down into gear position, because it'll be at the top. I want to go down, so it'll bump it down into the gear position, and the gear will move it down, basically. So this is where it bumps it. So that's how this is all supposed to work, and it makes sense to me that it would work this way, but I think I'm doing something wrong, I guess here, because it's only applying this to the first object. It might be because it's on custom global event that it's only running through once, but it's only applying it to the first object in the prefab, which is the blue outlined object. If you make a prefab, you can see that the original first object is blue, has a blue outline instead of green outline, and for some reason it's only doing that once, and then but that's weird because I've got for each object here, so it's only one event. It's not like it's down here where it happens every in seconds, and set to 0. So this is just going to happen, every single, all the time. And you'd think that every time it loops, it maybe switches which object it is. I'm not sure if that's how it works. I thought that if this one triggered this one, then this one would now start a loop for each object internally, and it would just do this the rest of the entire script for each object in the area. So that's how I've got it set up, but it's possible that this only happens if you loop it from here. which is weird, but it does make it to where, to me, that doesn't make any sense. I would say this should be its own thing and looping, but my programming knowledge is from, you know, line code. So, to me, from a line code perspective, this should be doing its own thing, with its own parts here. But from a script, from a node graph perspective, I suppose that it's possible that other node is taking over. That is the downside to node graph over line code, is that you don't always know how the, like with programming languages, this is messy because I added these messages that are just debug, and I didn't want to move anything around just to add them debug in, so it looks messy. But basically, I've just got it to where on start, and this is just a wait because I wanted to see what would happen. On start, it's supposed to trigger the custom event loop shroud. The loop shroud is right here on custom event loop shroud. Trigger custom event global, raise shroud, wait for 5 seconds, right there, 5. Trigger custom event global, drop shroud, wait for 5 seconds, trigger custom event loop shroud. So it's a loop that's going to go through. It's going to pretty much happen every 10 seconds because it's going to wait 5 seconds, wait 5 seconds. But it's going to sit here and trigger the raise shroud and then drop shroud. And I don't know if 5 seconds is the correct timing for that hammer you hear in the background from the Waterworks map. It might not be. It might be that that's not right, but I was going to adjust that after I got the whole thing working again. So now I've got it to where it will announce, you know, the string here, up complete and down complete after the after that, and it should be doing it to the player. I actually have not seen it do it, like send that to the player either. So I'm going to save it again, even though I just saved it and didn't change anything in there. Right now it's not doing anything. I had it to where it was moving, and oh wait, there it goes. Yeah, it was just a matter of waiting a couple seconds. It's doing it right there. But the problem is, it's at negative 0.25. Okay, so here's the problem. I'm going to show you the problem. Okay, so this used to be set to -1, and I set it to 0, and that's why you saw nothing moving just now. If I set this to 1, this is the default value. Before, this is supposed to take over and change it to 0.25. If this changes it to 0.25, it's supposed to make all of them, every single one of them, it's supposed to change all of them to 0.25 because it's for each object. And if it does, then they're all supposed to move up slowly. But what's happening is you wait a couple seconds for it to kick in, and all of them move up fast except for that one. And they do end up staying in their positions. That's the key part. They are going up and they're keeping their shape. So the shroud would move up and keep its shape if I apply this script as it is to the shroud. The problem is that I can't regulate the speed. It's always the same speed. The other problem is that because it's not setting it to any of the others, it's also not moving back down. It's just staying there. And that's not what I want. It just sits there. And not only that, but you notice, if you notice just now, it never called out this. Now, I did get random player, so maybe it's picking a player that doesn't exist, but I'm pretty sure if you only have one player and you put in get random player, it should send it to the one player. So maybe there's a thing I did wrong with the messages here, but for now, as far as I'm aware, this should actually send the message to the current player. And this player, by the way, is not, I mean, I could put this here, but that doesn't do anything because that's part of the message itself. If you change your message template to include a player listed in it, then it will say player. So basically that's where I'm at, and I think that if that Clin could get me that next, like over this bump, very easily, I would imagine, but I don't know that he's online yet. Let me see if he's tweeted it back at me because, or replied to my message, because I did message him on Twitter. Yeah, no, I think he's just not online yet. He's probably at work, so. Yeah. Oh, interesting. But yeah, there's some kind of bug apparently involving one of the Forerunner pillars that makes it look really nice. Cool. Anyway, so back to what we were doing. So I've got this now. That thing's lighting is looking weird. I'm gonna turn it around. Nope, not gonna turn that around. It might be wrong because of some kind of snapping problem. No, not really. It's probably shadows from one of these objects. Anyway, so yeah, we've got the structure pretty much done. I can select both struts and move them a little bit to the left there by going in here. Assuming that I'm not maxing out my number of objects that are selected, I can select both of them this way. I need to unlock that one to select it. What? Why is it still showing locked? Okay. Lock, unlock. Select. Okay. Select all of this. Select all of this. And get out. And turn off movement. And we'll do this. And turn off snapping. Turn off magnets. Where's my manipulator? What the heck? Okay. Should be... yeah, it's not selecting everything. Well, that's unfortunate. That means I'm going to have to move them both a set amount over to the side. Okay. They're not going to be perfectly lined up unless I get this flawless. That's a little frustrating. Okay, let's do it then. There's not really much I can do about that. Well, there's my manipulator. It's finally here. Okay. Want it like that. And it's not selecting those blocks. Are these somehow not in the object? Where is this located? That's not what I wanted to do. Oh, wait. Hold on. So this piece and that piece weren't being selected. Here we go. Yeah, they're not part of this. What are they part of then? Did I accidentally put them into the strut B? Oops. Okay. We'll do strut B and we'll select all. It didn't select them. No. No. It's not there. And now it is selecting them. What the heck? Okay, so I've got all this one selected and all of this one selected. And my manipulator is actually showing up. Okay, cool. So I can actually use them both together. I can move them all at once. We're going to move it a little bit over. Just right. Why is it stopping? I'm hitting some kind of physics object. Not sure what it is. That might actually be the right amount over. It's just barely not touching. Let me check in Halo 2. Let's see. Here we go. Oop. There we go. A little laggy. Trying to get back into the yeah, it's very different. It's also possible it needs to be moved up, but I don't think so. It could just be that this rail is too thick. If it's too thick right there, then that would definitely explain a lot. Okay. Yeah, it does look really thick compared to the original. Yes, it's definitely too thick. Okay, well that would just definitely explain it. I will snap her this way. Okay, so it will be nice if I could get That shroud working sometime today. Oh, jeez, that's gonna mess up everything. Huh, didn't think about that. Okay, so that's gonna move my corner point. I'll have to bring it back down. And then I'll need to scale that in. I knew I was gonna have to scale this, but I didn't think about these slopes. But they will be fairly easy to line back up again. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, so I'm going to copy this one over and snap it inside the other one. And then delete the other one. So for now, I guess that is... I guess I'll go down here and look at it. Make sure it's right. Yeah, that looks close enough. It's actually still rather far enough away. It looks like it's still a little too close. This thing definitely needed to be thinner anyway earlier, and I wasn't sure if I got it to the correct thickness after I fixed it, so it's perfectly fine to have to. Not what I wanted to do. There we go. I need to come up here and do it. I love how you can turn the camera separate from... Why is it going so slow? Separate from, you know, moving the object and rotating it, and scaling it, because that was one of the weaknesses of like Halo Reach and Halo 2 Anniversary. Forge is that you, and of course Halo 4 and I think Halo 5 as well, but I could be wrong because I didn't really do much of Halo 5 Forge. By much I mean I didn't do Halo 5 Forge. So, basically, it, with, forget what I was saying. So you can, by being able to do it that way, with the, you can turn your camera, you can look at the manipulator and then turn your camera to the precise point you wanted. Whereas in Halo Reach, you always had to, like, oh, geez, it was dumb. Having to figure out exactly which angle you wanted to point that thing. It was just terrible. Okay, so we got that fixed. We gotta fix this up here. This one, this one, this one, this one. That one. There's so many strengths of this version of Forge. That actually, by the way, needed to go over, and I was thinking about scaling it up. And the fact that this had to come thinner moves it over. It looks like exactly the right amount. So I do believe that that change was necessary. Now we just need to duplicate this and move the copy over to the other spot. And when we get over there, snap it inside of the original. At this corner, they're both the same scale, so it should snap fairly easily. And it appears to have done so. And then we delete the original, and we move everything else to match this. So, this one's already scaling in the correct direction. Actually, what is going on there? That's not what I want. Apparently I didn't snap this perfectly into the right position. And I need to bring it in a lot. And figure this out. Did I have it there? I don't think I did because it was not perfect. I also seem to have a lip here, which is not right. There we go. I think that's correct. We're about to scale it in anyway, so even if it's not right, I need to come in a little closer. Even if that's wrong, it won't matter because because we're scaling it in. Okay, so I snapped it to the top part, but then I had scaled it smaller this direction, so I do still need to scale this strut. This block here. Okay, so I didn't quite get this one perfect. There we go. No. No? No, I did have it better than I thought. It had to come in, not out. Okay, I understand now. Okay, and now that strut is definitely not lining up perfectly with the block. So the block was correct in where it was placed before, but it's too thick. Don't know how that's happening, but it's probably too thick on the other side of the map as well. But that should work a little better. We got that corner there. Okay, so then we gotta select this little thing. Kind of looks like the brute AI. This little block. It's named Draxus or something. Kind of reminds me of him. I'll put that one there, and this one will need to be scaled. There we go. Oh, right. Gotta get this part. Almost forgot. That's not right. Come on now. Snapped into position so easily on the other side. Okay, well, I can do it block by block because they're all just snapped to each other at precise locations. Oop. And that shouldn't be a problem. There we go. Okay. There we go. That's the struts straightened out. Let's drive this right through there and see how that works out for collision. So the Wraith it's a little tight. I might need to make this bridge a little... I had originally made this bridge just the right width, but it looks like I need to make it a little wider, because it sure is dragging on there. But it does get through, and you can turn around inside of it, which is really cool. I don't even think you can just turn... You can turn around inside of it on the original. I don't know, maybe the sparks flying as you go through there is kind of cool. I think I remember doing something like that in the original. I can certainly go check it out. Oop, there we go. There's the Wraith right there. Down that lower right corner while it sits there in the main screen. And, oop, why can't I get in? What is happening? There it goes. That was weird. It must be on server, and there must be some kind of weird lag. Oh yeah, it's like, it's scraping all over the place. It's literally clipping into the rails, which means if it was going to scrape, it would be scraping. And you can turn around. You can just barely turn around in the original. So yeah, I've got the rails just perfect, actually, apparently. Yeah. Cool. So that's good. Obviously my path, I mean, you can really see that really evidently in Halo Infinite, that I don't have this ramp lined up with the bottom area on both sides. I had to adjust it, and then I realized that I had that it was going to be a little off, and it won't snap, and I've got to scale it down to make it snap, and then I got to scale it back up, and then I wasn't sure about the angle of the ramps and all that stuff, so I just left it as is for now. And now we're going to get into, I think, terrain building, and once Clin, you know, becomes available, I'll see if I can do some more, you know, scripting. But for now, I had actually fixed this at one point, but it was during the 10 hours that I lost. There was a lot of little things here and there where I lost a bunch of the, a bunch of time. I had like adjusted this and moved into position and rotated it and done all sorts of stuff. I think I ended up with 2 versions of this rock. One of them was almost perfectly positioned and looked nice, and the other one was flattened almost to non-existence. And it worked out perfect. Looked exactly like the one in the original. I don't remember how tall that rock is supposed to be. Let's go actually to Blender for that. That should be a little easier than walking around. Oop, wrong button. Come on now, behave. There we go. It had to connect. So Basically, I want this rock to be very flat on the inside, almost like curved, like a cave on the inside. You see? And then on the outside, I want it to be sloped and coming out like that. So what I really need to do is, like I said, put two rocks. I think what I did was I rotated it. No, not by 45 degrees. I think I rotated it by, I think it was on none, because I was just eyeballing it correctly. And then I moved it out. Got that sort of, I was relying on this flat side that it generated there, and then I duplicated it. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's not duplicate it yet. We need to go in here, terrain, set as working folder, and now everything we generate will be there. This wall standard, though, needs to actually be moved into strut B. Move to strut B. And that was the copied piece of the strut A that I copied over a minute ago. Okay, so here's my terrain. These are all the rocks I have so far, and now whenever I generate new ones, it will put them in that folder automatically. So basically, like, had flattened it, not literally flattened, but excuse me, hiccups. Like, this is like super flat, and it's supposed to be like a cut out. I think it's supposed to be like the Forerunner structure was not cut into the structure, but I think that as these rocks formed from, you know, dripping, from water dripping from the sky, from up high, it, I believe that what the idea is that this structure has been being maintained by, you know, sentinels and the like, all this time, and that they basically melt through the rock to make this area always accessible, because otherwise they would lose the area to time and erosion. And yeah, that's my thinking on why the map looks the way it does. But it's just interpretation, of course. But it's a pretty good explanation, I would think, for why it looks like this. I think I can fill that in. I need to put a, probably some kind of, I need to move this back, and I think I need to put a transition rock into this. Or more likely, I need to scale it, and then move it back, because this protrusion here is present in the original map, but I don't know that I had it perfectly lined up, so we'll find out. I did apparently have it hiding this, so I need to scale this a little thinner too, move it over. Not entirely certain why I used this particular arch here, and it might not be the best, but it was like the first thing I put together whenever I built this map so far. I placed this platform, and I started building out from there, and I used this to scale the central structure, and I kept having to adjust it because it wasn't actually scaled, or to scale itself. And I used the width of that wraith to get that platform correct, and then I used the angle correction from Blender. I got the exact angle of that piece from Blender, and yeah, went from there. Okay, so some of that was on stream, some of it was off stream, and so that's why I'm explaining it. But so if I have it like this, then I can move this over more, and then I can put a sort of transition, because I want to say this is fairly well, fairly well angled. Okay, so it goes in and down. That's the thing. So that would mean that, like, wraiths would not be able to fire as easily into this hallway until they get up this pathway, so that's actually important. Because this is a wraith-heavy map, given that they spawn on the map. But where is it compared to this? So yeah, my entire pathway, it looks like, is too far over here. And I don't believe that it's the the actual platform that's too short. I do believe it is actually that my rocks are too big and that they need to be moved this way because of the way that it, like, the fact that the way that they fit on there is too correct, you know. There's a it's basically a I'm pretty sure that I have this to scale for the most part, so this would be a better location. I want to make sure, well, I can actually move that rock itself. So grab that rock and move it away. And then this is going to move in here so that this blade of a piece doesn't protrude anywhere. And I think, yeah, this needs to be sloped by a significant amount, which means that's going to poke through. And I think I need to go ahead and just vertically flatten this and move it up because there's no reason for it to have to be that way. And it's just protruding through as a result. This is an arch, by the way. Like, I really don't remember why I used this one in particular, but it's pretty it's kind of imperfect, but we're going to make it prettier a little later on. Still gonna move this in. That's starting to get really wonky here. So I think that I may not need to be moving it in. I think I need to scale it back in. I made it too wide earlier. It needs to be more like... It's actually getting really nice slope compared to that one. And how does it look over here? It's not sticking out. So I need to basically put something there to shore up the rock to the surface. But yeah, that's looking nice. We can bring this over a little more. And actually, it's kind of leaving an opening up here. And I don't want you to be able to hide back here, and that also looks terrible. So I'll have to put another little rock or something to seal this little area up. And is this even sloped enough, though? It's still not sloped enough. It needs to be like a lot. There we go. We're gonna go to global, or yeah, world rather. No problem. You're welcome. This is amazing. Yeah, you're saying? Yeah, thank you, I mean. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so now we need that to... we need a column there. Okay. So... I can use this and duplicate it and make it way... I love the scaling. It's such a game changer. Okay, like I could do something like that. And, actually, you know what? I wanna turn it like those, kind of comes out right there. I can actually use that to my advantage. Let's see. We'll go back to individual, like the object scaling. And then we can bring it in this way and make it a column, which might be how this piece was originally intended. I don't remember what this piece was. Let's see, have you been forging a lot in the past? I did in Reach a lot, and then I did in Halo 2 Anniversary a little bit, and I did a little bit in Halo 4 as well, but I never forged in Halo 5, even though that would be the closest to this experience. That I unfortunately do not have that kind of experience. But that would have been helpful, but maybe because they changed some things for this one, it kind of keeps my, you know, my understanding of the tools a little more pure, I guess, because the with what do you call it? Going from Halo Reach or Halo 2 Anniversary to this is night and day, so it doesn't actually... I'm on camera. It doesn't actually, I don't think, really affect your ability to handle it if that's all you have experience with. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, basically my experiences with Halo Reach and Halo, and this, and mostly. And I did Halo 3 as well, back during Halo 3, but I wouldn't really call that really doing it. This is definitely not going to do the trick of what I'm trying to do. I think I need to, like, disappear it into the wall, but then it's not doing that correctly. So I need something that will sort of... Maybe I need to rotate on the world axis here to get that corner to sort of disappear. Or maybe I need to scale it again and go over some more, because that will get it out the way, and then this won't clip as much. But I did do a lot of... I mean, I was trying to make my own first-person shooter in Unity. Do you have game dev experience? Oh yeah, you just asked that. Yeah, I've done professional QA for Electronic Arts and for EA, and so I do have some for QA, professional, and then I was trying to make some Unity projects, and mostly I believe I have ADHD without having been diagnosed, and I believe, and that because my ability to focus on that is my main reason why I also have kids, and that pulls my focus away a lot. But basically, yeah, my ability to focus on that is I believe the reason why I have not completed any of my Unity projects yet. But yeah, basically, one of them was I was trying to make a first-person shooter, and I had all these grand ideas on how I was going to do it. And I got kind of far. You can walk around, you can jump, you can use jetpack, you can do a bunch of stuff like that. But it's not... You can't shoot anything yet, even, because I hadn't put the code in for weapons. It was just more like a third-person platformer at the beginning of that, or first-person platformer, I mean. As far as I've finished. That kind of is working. And it fixes the angle of this a lot better. So most of my dev experience is... Most of my professional experience is QA, and most of my developer experience is indie. So I don't know if you'd call that dev experience. I think that a lot of devs would tell you, okay, so you don't really have dev experience. That's what they tell me. But what they, but yeah. Let's see. Okay. I do have a lot of, I guess I do have game developer experience in a way, because I made Dungeons and Dragons. It's just not video games. And I didn't make that professional either, but I sold content that people actually bought. Third-party content that people actually bought. So I guess in a way I do have a little bit more than I'm saying, but it's D&D, so I don't know if that counts either. It's just sort of a thing. Okay, so this definitely needs to be a little bit up. Needs to be higher than the rail, or well, just slightly higher than the rail. And let's see. I need to make a transition for this because this looks bad so far, but and actually it slopes down more than I'm doing it. I think that so I mean, you can see that I'm at least proficient with Blender. Oh, it's not sloped down. It does actually stay straight. It's only sloped at that one part that you could see while I was sitting there. So I do have it the correct angle. I just need to add a little slope of dirt on that side. I might actually want to put a terrain piece here. Like I've got it as a rock, you know? That's creating these sort of like weird bumps. And I might want to actually place like an actual terrain piece inside there and just scale it to the right size. because that seems more like it. Playtest this map. Yeah. Well, if you drop me your gamer tag, you can either send it to me directly. I'm on Twitter and, you know, obviously here, and you could drop it in chat if you really want to. I have a little text document with like 4 people in it that all had asked as well, that I was going to try to friend and invite whenever I go to do the test, if I haven't already friended them. Some of them, I think I immediately sent them a friend request. But basically, yeah. Whenever, whoops, pop that in the mic. I said that the other day that I was probably going to end up doing that at some point. That some people don't like that, and I apologize. Let's see. Biomes. Terrain. Okay. So yeah, and then I can just send you a friend request and an invite whenever I go to playtest it. I was thinking about streaming the playtest. Cool. With I as in like those eyes at the beginning and end that you already have on that you have in your profile. Okay. Let's see. If I use terrain piece, I might just be able to get one that's sloped and scale it, but I don't think that slope is gonna line up the way I want it to, so I'm probably just gonna... Do they not have like a flat one? Oh, that's right. All of them are flat on the bottom, so they don't need a flat one. I think if I just place this and flip it over, then it becomes a... Oh, whoa, this one's a bowl! Man, I was wondering if they had a bowl one. I had looked at a bunch of them and they were all flat on the bottom. But a bowl is important because whenever you have... Like, let's say you've got 2 of these hills next to each other, right? And you go like this, and you've got an ugly seam in the middle. It's just hideous, and you don't like it, right? You want to get rid of it. You just go and you grab a bowl of some kind. Obviously, this one is too far up on the sides. I'm sure there might be a bowl that doesn't go up on the sides like this. I'm not sure. But basically, if you then proceed to scale it down and flatten it a bit, you can make that bowl a little different, and you can, you know, just position it to where it kind of evens it out in the middle. Well, it still seems a little iffy. I think it's because I'm not using the let's see, delete that. I'm gonna use the this one. Waterworks doesn't have a lot of grass. This is kind of more like a mossy kind of grossness that would grow in, you know, in a swamp. And I'm going to change the lighting so that looks like really pale whenever you're actually in the map. And I think I'm going to use it though because the way that these things like merge together is like really high-tech coolness that like you can just do this and find a good spot and like the seam just disappears. It's amazing. This is really high-tech stuff. Okay, so please tell me you're making the ladders and then the top pillar move. Well, I have good news. I've got good news and bad news. This is my good news. This is my bad news. That is my test to make the top pillar move. That's how fast it's supposed to be moving. And then it's not applying to all of the other pieces. And I do have to make it in tiny pieces to make it go up and down. And so I'm waiting for Clen to be available either today or another day to help me fix that code. But the good news is that I already have the ladders working, is that I built the ladders. And this one is giving me weird trouble. That's weird. I did tweak something on that one and not this one. So if this one works and the other one doesn't, I need to undo that. Yeah, so that was a little choppy looking, but eventually it smooths out. See, it's still a little choppy, but it basically it works exactly as intended. It'll go up whenever you move at it looking up. It will not go up whenever you're looking down. And I have released this ladder, by the way, as a prefab, if you want to use it in one of your maps. And you can, if you're looking up and walk into it backwards, it does not work. And if you look down, it does work. So it works exactly like the ladder in Combat Evolved in Halo 2, and there's a gap there, and I don't... Oh, it's not a gap, it's a thickness alignment issue. Look at that. Oh, it's just over to the side. When did that happen? Oh, the whole thing got messed up. What the heck happened to this? Did I accidentally select it at some points and move it? Or did I just straight up not fix that? I could have sworn I did that. Okay, this is weird. Lock that. I must have accidentally selected it, because that happens whenever you switch between mouse and keyboard a lot. Mouse and keyboard and controller, I mean. It'll sometimes randomly select stuff. And it looks like it had snapped to something down there, probably. But yeah. So, yeah, I've got working ladders. And it's going to be really cool, hopefully, the map in the end. But I did release that as a prefab, so if anybody needs them for their own maps... What is happening? Oh, right. I've got to hit 5? No, what? No, not 5. Well, up on the D-pad should do the trick. Okay, come on. Okay, up on the D-pad, there we go, and then switch here. So yeah, if you need them, then you've got them. You can grab my prefab and do it. It's got a little bit of if you need to change like what the appearance is, you can do that because the scripting is separate from the script is separate from the actual like 3D object for the appearance, and so that should be fairly simple. Ooh, that wasn't right. I'm trying to get the Z-axis. And so if you do want to do that, you can, but it will be a slightly involved process because if you change the width, you're going to need to change the width of the collision box. It'll be kind of like Forge from like Halo Reach, you know, adjusting it. I think you said so. Oh, you just said that's awesome. Yeah. And then let's see, just honed in on this move. Okay, so that should be correct, and we can lock this strut again so that I can't touch it anymore. That way I can't mess up any more pieces, in theory, assuming there are no bugs. But yeah, so to show you real quick, if you do want to use in yours this box right here, it's locked because I have the central structure locked, but you'll notice that well, let's see, that it goes above the ladder, and you'll notice that's not too thick side to side. Like, you don't want it to be like this way. It's not too thick. And that's important because if it's too thick, then whenever you run into it, I'm not going to activate it, but whenever you run off this way, the script brain has collision in, unless you're in, unless you actually hold down the back button and go in. But anyway, if you run off the edge of this ladder, then it would have bunny hopped you. It would have like basically caused you to jump if it's too thick that way. But if it's the correct thickness, then it'll work. If you make it wide, you're going to need to widen that zone. This is basically the width measurement of the actual ladders from Halo 2, so I just went with that. Let's see. I think this is not snapped to the right location, but I can't fix it right now. I will worry about that later. I'm sure I will notice that later. No, I won't. I will forget that even exists as a thing. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off and fix that. I feel like I fixed this before on this particular ladder in this exact way, but maybe not. Maybe oh, the rotation's off. That's weird. Okay. Maybe I did fix it before, and the reason that it's messed up is because it broke whenever I tried to move stuff or hit undo or something like that. Yeah, it's messed up over here too. Good thing you asked about the ladders. I wouldn't have even noticed that. I might have shipped the map with that. Yeah, let's lock that, and let's turn this back on, and we'll go back to our terrain. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that I've made, gone through great pains to make it basically exactly like the original. I'm just gonna copy this rock and put it right here, and meld it into the wall, and turn off my snap rotation that's going ridiculous. For natural structures, you don't really want to snap. Oh, that's perfect. That looks really nice. Okay, so basically that's going to protect you from wraiths firing uphill at you from that doorway until they get around into position. What I'm planning to do right now is I'm going to build out this way. I'm going to build the tunnel with the bridge over there and the tunnel over here, and then I'm going to copy that to the other side and rotate it around and put it in position. And then I'm going to build the base area, the structure, like the bases area. And then I'm going to copy that and move it to the other side and match it up. So actually, I'm going to call this not terrain, because I'm going to make them separate sections. I'll say tunnel and I should just do an ampersand and bridge. Yeah, section A. Well, I'll just say tunnel and bridge A. And that'll work pretty well. Oh, nope, it doesn't like ampersand. And there we go. So that way I'll remember what I'm looking at there. But yeah, so the terrain pieces are just amazing. I think I'm going to... This area up top is very sandy, though. So maybe I don't want to use this kind of terrain up here. Maybe I want to use the... if I use a regular... Instead of the TI, if I use a regular one, I can make it all sandy looking. Let's see. I need one that's flat on the bottom and relatively... yeah, it's flat on the bottom and relatively rectangular shape. I mean, I could scale any of them to a rectangular shape, but I just need to be mostly rectangular already. Yeah, I'm working on an elevator for my brother's map. Got it working perfectly, but I need to learn how to combine multiple objects using the same node graph. I don't want to create one for each object. Yeah, that's what I'm running into for the shroud up here. What I'm calling the pump shroud. I think that that's what really Clint and I have been working on. He's very good at the scripting in this game. He's already a good programmer, so he ends up being really good at the scripting in this game as well. And I assume he must know node graph, I mean scripting, unlike myself. Who, yeah. So basically, he's been sort of helping me out with that along the way, and I'm just hoping he can help me out some more. You should follow him on Twitter, by the way. He's makes some great stuff. I'm going to delete this and just go with this kind of thing. Just a little more flat, but I'm going to add flavor and texture to it in a minute. I think I want this rock. I went out of my way to have this rock here because on the original map it is there, but it's kind of like I kind of have it backwards in a way. That's protruding, and this is really close to it. Whereas this should be the one this should be the one that's really close, and this one should be protruding. I'm gonna go ahead and scale it shorter, and then bring it up. Okay. This was really like literally the first thing I built in the map, so it's very very simple compared to the rest of the map. Okay. So I want this one to protrude more, and that one to protrude less. I think I want to make it a little bit more like this to position it correctly. Yeah. Yes, and then I want to duplicate this rock. Flip it over so it doesn't look like it's the same rock. Oh, look at that. We've got bot in chat. Look at that. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and report that one. What is it? We put them in timeout, I guess? Or remove them? Remove? Okay. Yeah, that fixed that, I think. Let's see. Okay, so we can... Whoops, what am I doing? There we go. I'm going to merge this into that rock so it kind of looks like the same rock continues up from below in a really nice and convincing way. And that'll give you this sort of cover, which is supposed to be sort of shorter, like this. And I'm actually going to rotate it this way, I think, because it's supposed to be wider than I was giving it. World. I guess I've got to scale it a little bit. Ooh, is it not wanting to? Oh, hey. There we go. Okay, I think I've got this on the wrong button. Why is it so slow? Oh, because I got that turned on. Okay, here we go. I think this is the direction I want to put this rock, because that will make it line up better with the natural formation that was already there. And let's see, like this maybe? Not quite. Just gotta look at those angles and how they actually meet up. And it sort of gives you an idea of the polygon, like where the polygons actually touch. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Doesn't look as nice as a second ago whenever I had it set up taller. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust it and make it actually line up better. That feels a lot nicer. Yeah, that looks more realistic. You can kind of, duck down here. Yeah, my goal is to make the map so good that 343 Industries wants to put it into playlists, into like matchmaking. That's what my ultimate goal is, and why I'm putting in so much effort. Like why is this not scaling anymore? Is there a minimum? Did I hit minimum scale or something? It's working that direction, but it just won't work that direction for some reason. So that's my sort of like what I want to happen. I have no idea if that's actually going to happen, but we'll see. Let's see. Yeah, and then I'm gonna have to put a little slope right there, which will be terrain. I think it's just straight. It's not like a curved one. So there's a slope. I'll do 20 degrees. I think that's about right. And then it's not going to scale this one either. All of a sudden. Oops. What is going on with my scaling tool? Oh, weird. Really weird. Okay, that's unusual. Ran into some kind of bug. I wonder if I'm going to end up having to turn off the game and turn it back on. Okay, so mouse and keyboard scaling is also... It's working on the Z-axis, it's clicking anyway. But it's not working on any other direction. That's really weird. Yeah, okay. I think I ran into a forge bug. Yeah, I'll just save it, and I must have done something that broke it. Don't know what it is. I wonder if I could go back on the video and find out what it was, since I'm streaming, I've got it on record. But I don't know. I don't know what just happened. That pop-up just came up. I think it was saying Yeah, latest version. I'm going to block out my maps whenever I make my own maps, but because I'm making a remake, I was duplicating the blocks over and over and over again, and I was like, why would I go back and select all of these blocks and then change their texture later? That building, that central building, is made of like 17 or 18% of the entire, well, honestly, it's pretty much the whole map right now, so it's like 20% of my entire map's, you know, resources, because it's made out of so many blocks. And I was like, I am not going back through this structure, selecting every single block and changing each one's texture individually. There's too many of those swatches. That seemed insane to me. So I was like, and you can't just select like all of the blocks, because the slopes and then the regular blocks, they track differently. And I was like, I am not doing that. This is so many blocks to make this entire thing up. It would be madness. Like, there's little tiny blocks in places, and like, yeah, and there's stuff that's like really hidden, like this slope is like hard to find, and I duplicated the whole light area, the whole light structure a few times, and forgot about that block, and it was... Okay, so scaling appears to be working now. No, it's not. What is happening? Okay, so I definitely need to... Oh, okay. It started working now. Okay, good. Good. We have scaling good. So yeah, I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna go ahead and make it, and that way whenever I duplicate the blocks, if I set up the texture originally, whenever I duplicate the blocks, I can save a lot of time later by just going straight into, by already having their texture set up. So that's basically what I had in mind. Is this just perfect? Like a perfect spot? Honestly, the sand is also pretty much perfect. No, I need to make it... Ooh, I actually don't want to do that, because I know the top is going to be the same. So actually, I need to turn this to match that edge. And I need to adjust this, I need to make it touch just at the lip of it, and... There. Yeah? It shouldn't be perfect. Like, shouldn't be perfectly lined up with the lip, because it's not part of that structure. So it should be a little bit lower than the lip, and that'll be fine with Master Chief's, or well, the, you know, Spartan, not necessarily Master Chief, but the Spartan's, movement in this is really nice. So yeah, there'll be a bump there. Let me smooth that out a little bit by adjusting it up a little further, scaling it a tiny bit, and now the bump should be basically gone. Yeah. So that looks really nice. I feel like this area needs to be rock, I think. So I will have to put another rock there to try and, you know, fill that in. Ooh, okay, my snapping's off. Well, no, it's that I'm going too slow. There we go. I don't want snapping on because they're natural objects. Yeah, so basically with the textures, I just really did not want to have to go through all that trouble later. And I was like, yeah, I think the best bet is just to change all of them now and worry about the you know, blocking it out as something I'll do with mine, like my own original maps. Oh man, I had an idea for a map that unfortunately is not viable anymore. They had a like Red Nomster on one of the other forgers who's on Twitter, much more popular than me. He made the Toy Story one, if you didn't know. This map on CTF back on 04 online was so much damn fun. Yes, it was. It really was. It's and the thing is, one of the other thing is, I got to talk to Max Hoberman about the original and the shortcomings of the original, because there's some like some things that can be slightly fixed. And so this one's going to be 1-to-1 identical to the original. You see, like I'm going to... Like this one's going to be like as close as I can to the original in Infinite. But after I'm done with this one, I'm going to make some changes to it and make a separate version of the map. And that one's going to be... have some, like, what I'm calling it the glow-up version. Basically, it's going to be rebuilt to work better with Halo Infinite's mechanics of sprint and all that kind of stuff. But more importantly than that, it's the... Geez, this seam is, like, non-existent. You can see it a little bit, but it's, like, actually worked out really well, even without the fancy high-tech textures. So, let me... I can actually probably pull up an image of it real quick. Let's see. Where is it? Forge plans. Waterworks. Let's see. I'm gonna have to view this as a large icons. You can't see what I'm doing right now, but basically, this is the plan. I explained all this in like the first time I streamed, but I haven't explained it in a while. This is a really old image. If you look at it in the lower right corner, it's a really old image all the way back from 2004. But it's because I googled and I couldn't find another one that was newer, which was insane. Basically this area up here with this little blue outline, I don't know if you can see it in the lower right corner there of the screen, but basically that is, you know what, I can actually, let me hit, if I do this, will that work? No, it's just showing Master Chief Collection. Okay, okay, well basically, yeah, I've got this number 1 up here. Okay, what I can do is this. Display capture, unlock it, drag it bigger. Okay. Sorry about that. So, we've got number 1 here. Number 1, I'm going to expand the base out over there by grabbing the hangar bay area. I'm just going to basically grab that and move it over here and build a new base up here. Lunar blockout testing phase is really good. He's really good at Forge Sketch, and Duquesne retweeted it. That's awesome. Oh wait, I think I saw that one. I think I might have seen that one. But yeah, I think I did. So I'm going to move the hangar bay area over here, and I'm going to build an internal room there where it used to be, and like a hallway going across. It's going to be above the ground that you can drive through, like a little, like a vehicle kind of pathway. And then over here I'm going to extend the tunnel through this area so that you can come out the back. There were these 2, like, you know, stalagmites on the ground that I'm not sure why they were there exactly, but they looked like they were sitting there waiting for something to either spawn in between them in the original, or to you know, be that there was supposed to be a doorway there or something to that effect. Maybe a teleporter was supposed to be there. But basically, I was like, yeah, I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to extend this tunnel, because what he and I were talking about was that there's nothing to make you move out of your base to defend it. And that's good map design, is whenever there's some flow. Because if you have to move, say, out to this bridge to defend your base, which doesn't really happen. The sniper, as long as you get that sniper rifle, you can take out anyone over here who's sniping your people. And you don't even have to go outside and let them snipe you from there. You could just stay inside with a shotgun and defend the base the entire time and wait for people to come in and kill them. So because of that, because you can sort of bunker down really easily in the original map, he and I were talking about how he was pointing out that there's no forward momentum. And so basically, if you never have to move out here, then you never think, well, I'm already out here anyway, I might as well continue on to the enemy base. So it doesn't create stories, as you know, as they say. It doesn't have, the map doesn't have a proper story. I'm also going to move the gun turret thing up here so that this room has more of a purpose and has a little window there and all that kind of stuff. And it'll sort of centralize it to the base shape so that you can't just be like, gun turret, sniper rifle, you know, jump in this hole and hide. You know what I mean? it'll kind of it'll make it to where this one place isn't where you stand with the sniper rifle, and down inside isn't where you stand with the shotgun, because they could come into your base this way, and so you can't just stay in that room to defend it. So you have to be able to move around inside the base, even if it's just inside this much larger base. You're still being forced to move around. And then I had a proper image, which will be a little more interesting to look at, I think, that I had thrown together. Where is it? Why are they both? Oh, one's a PNG and one's a JPG. I see. So this is what I actually photoshopped together. I grabbed the hangar bay from a different angle and photoshopped it over here and put the rocks in the way. Point is that, yeah, so this is what the base will kind of look at from the front. Kind of look like from the front, I mean. And that basically is what you're going to see in the end. Is the, I mean, with the, not the one-to-one version, but the glow-up version. And with that expansion, this ridge, that's another thing about that, is that this ridge here was like a death trap if you were attacking, and it was just kind of a, it was like how you got over, it was a slower way to get over here, because you could just jump in the teleporter and teleport over here. So unless you spawned over here, there was no reason to be over here. If you were the attacker and you're going on like a, you know, and you were going and sneaking, you know, if you had like invisibility, then this path became sort of something you needed to, you could use, so that if you became visible, you wouldn't be out in the middle of the, you know, world. But like, at least I think invisibility was on this map. It's been so long, I'm actually struggling to remember that. But basically, yeah, this path here is a death trap or useless for the most part. So by moving the base over here, it becomes an actually like useful area of the map, because the teleporter, which will probably still be in here, was gonna bring you. I'm actually gonna move the teleporter from here. I'm gonna move it over to here, and sort of put a path coming out this way, and like the bridge is gonna extend back this way, and I'm gonna put a pit here, because this area also was weirdly used. It wasn't really all that useful. It was kind of just a way to get your vehicle stuck on terrain. So I'm going to put like a pit here, and I'm going to make the bridge go out like this and have the teleporter here. So whenever you go through the teleporter, you're kind of in a dangerous spot, but if you have the repulsor, you can throw people into the pit, and so the whole map will work better with the original, with the new Halo Infinite, you know, sandbox. And this here, number 2, is a grav lift. I'm thinking about putting this here. This is the one part that, one idea I had. Like, Max Hoberman loved all my ideas, except this one. He was like, I like that, but I don't know if it'll actually work, basically, is what he said. And so this grav lift will throw you to the middle of the map. And that was so that enemy snipers, you know, come to the middle of the map all the time. At least whenever I used to play, there were always people up here on, you know, they get the sniper, they'd move to the middle of the map, and then they'd use it aggressively. Sometimes they'd steal the enemy sniper and then go up there. But basically, yeah, whenever they're up there and they're sniping the base, it kind of locks down the base and turns it into everyone is inside just trying to hide from the sniper, which also doesn't let you move forward. That also hinders the same forward momentum that he and I were talking about the rest of this map. So what the idea there is that if there's a grav lift, and if it has sufficient cover to be able to get into it before the sniper can kill you, or if the sniper's over here sniping across to the, you know, from the opposite side of the central tower, then you can hop in that grav lift and throw yourself over here with a shotgun and take them out. Theoretically, you could have your sidekick de-scope them on your way over there, and unless they're, you know, mint blitz, they're not going to no-scope you in the air, and hopefully Max is the biggest brain out of anyone involved with Halo. Always take his advice. Exactly. He said this is something he would want me to play. He was saying he wasn't sure about this. Not that he thinks it's bad, but he's not sure about it. And I was like, I'll play test that. I'll put it in. I'll play test it, and if it's garbage, then I'll take it out. And he was like, that sounds good. That sounds reasonable. So we'll find out. But basically, the idea is that that you could take closer quarters weapons to the sniper and engage them. And what that does is, though, since it's a one-way trip, you're now in the middle of the map, and that's a very instantaneous, long-range sort of movement that will get you out of your base and moving out to defend it. So it also kind of, you know, fulfills the same kind of idea that he was that we were talking about, that he was suggesting with the lack of forward momentum. So this should be a better version of the map, and if either of them ends up in a playlist, I imagine that the original one might end up in a playlist that they create that's just filled with classic maps. And then if any of them, end up in a real playlist, like not just a throwback playlist, but a proper like full-blown playlist in matchmaking, then this one is probably going to be the one that ends up in there, because the original did have some shortcomings. That's why they never rebuilt the map or remade it. So that's basically my plans with it so far. But right now I'm just trying to do the terrain, and I'm expecting the terrain to move faster than this stuff, because this has been since day one, every day, like 4 to 8 hours of work. One day I did 10 hours of work, and it was terrible because it ended up bugging out. This is weird, and it happened another time as well, and I had to go in to build mode, or to regular mode, and then it fixed it, and I came back out and it was normal again, and every time I loaded up the map later it was working correctly. So I have no idea what causes that, but it's just some weird bug, I guess. But yeah, Max is also like a really good businessman, it looks like. I hadn't like really followed his career until I got to have this conversation with him, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's actually really cool. He's like one of the coolest people that was from Bungie. I just didn't know that. But yeah, so let's see. So basically that's my plan, and hopefully it works out and becomes a really good map as a result. But I'm thinking about using the fancy TI terrain for the ground, because it's so hard to clean up those seams, and like I said, I'm gonna just use lighting to make that green not look so green. At least that's the plan. Some of these look very green. I guess it's the slopes that are the ones that work so well, because whenever you rotate it becomes more and more rocky. The flat areas are actually very green. I don't know. What do y'all think? You think I should use the green and use that really nice blending technique it has? Or should I just manually blend a whole bunch of regular terrain? Because both of those sound like a lot of work, but they, I mean, this one sounds like a lot of work, but this one seems like it might not be perfect. This one just shifted to very much more pale than it was before. Like, out of the blue, it seems like it just kind of popped, and it was suddenly more dirt-like. But maybe that's just my imagination. Oh, I do? Oh, shoot. Ha! Sorry about that. Yeah, I gotta open up OBS again and shrink that back down. I think I had it around there. Thank you for letting me know, because I would have just kept going. Okay, so... yeah, so what do you think? Should I use the proper, you know, terrain pieces and let it blend and be all really nice? Or should I, and then just trust that the texture of it is going to end up working out well once it's a cave? Do I have my mid scripted? Are you talking about this thing? It unfortunately is not quite done yet. I'm working on that still, and I need Clint's help to finish that. I think you were in chat whenever I was scripting it out before with Clint. I've got this, and it's working, you know, well enough on one. Like, watch this. Okay, after about 5 seconds, it's going to kick in. And all of them move at the wrong speed. Or, well, this one is the right speed. That's how fast it's supposed to be moving. And the rest of them are just shooting up at a whopping, you know, 1 world units per, basically, tick. Per server tick. And it's a bug. It's this for each object is not happening for each object, and I'm not sure what's going on there. So I was going to talk to Clint about it. The one piece is doing it correctly, and the rest are not. And I don't know what's causing it. It might be because I'm using on custom global event, or custom event global, And so it might be just running through once, but I imagined that this was supposed to trigger and go into this, and then this for loop should happen for every single object in the list, and it's not. So that's my main problem. So I'm gonna talk to him about it and see if he has a proper solution for me, because that's it's acting weird. So that's why I'm just looking at terrain right now and building out from there. And that's what I was asking you guys about. What do you think that I should use? So yeah, that's why I said you'll have to use 80 brains. I tried that, and then there's a limit apparently to the number of script brain nodes you can have across all of your script brains. Or at least it was, or either that or is bugging out. But remember that column of script brains I built over here, and I was going to move up each row because I didn't know how to do what I just did, where actually that's another thing, by the way. This is fixed. It's moving up fast, but it's not merging them all into one row. Watch at the top, they're going to actually stop and get into position. So that's fixed, and it's just one script brain. And that was something that Clint had helped me with, but then also after I got off of chat with him, it started, I had to do a lot more to figure it out, but all the way. But for the most part, he had basically solved that for me as well. Which is basically, we are grabbing... Well, what he solved for me was that I didn't know this. I didn't know that the objects store... Like, if you declare a variable down here, right? Like identifier and max z and min z. And then you come up here and you say, for each object, set the number variable on object, on scope object, and you make these variables scope object. Then, whenever you declare this, and you have your object associated with it, then it will actually create a variable in that object that is a copy of this variable, basically. Like, each object will have its own version of this variable. And I didn't know that. I thought it was just going to set the variable, and then I was going to be, and I wouldn't have it. So basically, what it's doing now is at game start, it's creating a min z and a max z for every single object in the prefab, and it's setting them to their current. It's setting the minimum z to the current z-axis value, and their current z position. And then that way, because I put the shroud at the lowest point on the pump, and so basically I've got that for the minimum, and then I'm going to want it to go up as soon as the match starts. And then so I take that and I'm adding 200 to it just as a random test number, and then I'm throwing that in as its maximum z. And so now I've got a min z and a max z for each object stored inside of that object, and so it's able to. I'm able to use that. I can say move up until you reach the maximum and move down until you reach the minimum down here, like we were originally doing to begin with. And I just have to call those instead of having max z and min z hard-coded with numbers here. And this nonsense, actually, I don't even need this anymore. This stuff I can just delete. And draw that line there, and that means I can put... Well, really, I should move both of these back so I don't have that string problem. That spaghetti code. So basically, yeah, I've got all of this working significantly better now, because now the objects are actually moving up to where they need to be, and they're doing it in a way for all of them individually. And because it's pulling from the max z and min z, this loops. It does it for one of the objects, and it pulls the max z and min z from that object and uses it to guide where it's going to go. The problem is, in this stuff, somewhere, I've got it messed up, because it's not, like I said, it's not looping every time to change the direction. That's this one, identifier direction. It's not changing the direction correctly, and for each object, it's only doing it for the first object in the prefab, which is why that one block is moving up slowly and the rest are moving up really fast. Is that one block is the first object in the prefab, which is the one with the blue outline. Whenever you make a prefab and one of them has a blue outline, that's the first object in the prefab. And as far as like a list goes, and it's applying it to that one. It's not applying it to any of the other ones. And this move, by the way, is just to bump it up into this range. I explained this earlier, so some people in chat might have been here earlier, or some of the people who are watching at least might have been here earlier, might have already heard all this. But basically, this is this has a range, minimum and maximum, and once it goes to the bottom, it gets outside of that range and then it stops moving. So if I just change the direction value, it won't keep going. So what I have to do is bump it back into the position, like move it, like shove it back into its correct spot. And yeah, so this is what I'm doing here is yeah. Wait, is this maybe the problem? Get number variable for identifier. No, that should be correct. I'm setting it to -1 and then I'm bumping it back down. And this one's moving, it moves up at 0.25, so if I bump it down by -1, it should move back into the range. And then these are moving, this one bumps it back up by 1.25, so it should move it back into the range. Even though this is moving -1, it'll move 0.25 back into the range. So yeah, this should work, but it's only working for the one object. And then on top of that, it's not working for one more thing. This is supposed to trigger those events. It's a separate brain, that's why they're global events. And it's supposed to, on loop shroud, which is this one. So on game start, start loop shroud. On custom event with loop shroud, it's supposed to activate raise shroud, and then it's supposed to wait 5 seconds, then activate lower drop shroud, and then wait 5 seconds, and then loop it again. Go back to this one, activate itself. And I don't know if you're allowed to activate itself like that. I imagine you should be able to. Yeah, I don't know. If not, I can always make this thing just flip a switch, like on or off, and make this loop all the time. But I don't know. It just, I could say this every n seconds, for example, and then it would just loop through this over and over again. That would probably work. That would probably solve this thing. But I just wanted to talk to Clint about it because he's the programming person here. So I will do that. I'm gonna say every n seconds. That's it. It was highlighted, so I didn't see it. I wasn't looking at the highlighted one. And I will set that to there. And then that will, let's see, it's on 0, so we're going to create, or it's on 0.1 rather, the default is 0.1. But if you come down, he showed me this, if you do variable basic and you do a number, and you set it to 0, then you can sort of bypass the that minimum of 0.1 seconds and turn it into every 0 seconds, so it's every single tick of the server. So every tick of the server, it should activate this, right? But and then it goes through, it loops. Will it activate it again? Will it run it? Will run multiple versions of this, each of them with a wait. I don't know. That's why I was doing it the other way, because I wanted to trigger it one time and then loop it. But we'll see. I'll go ahead and test it and see if it's going to only run itself one time through. But yeah, and then that means that this would all go away. Well, it's not sending me my message, but well, it did go up and activated that, and it does appear to be moving at the lower speed there, so I assume it must have looped. Question is if it's going to come back down. It's not sending me my message, which is obnoxious, because I'm not sure if I'm doing that right or if it's broken. Not seeing any movement downward. So yeah, I think that the let's see. For one thing, I want to change this really quick. We're going to go ahead and say, I said get random player should grab the only player in the game. I'm the only one in the game, so that should work. So these messages should be being sent to me. But instead, I'm going to do a where is it? UI, it's right here. Print number to kill feed. And I'm just gonna, I've got a number, I'll just throw that in there. And I will clear all connections, clear all connections. I don't need to activate those. Let's see. And then I will connect those two and just see if this thing is going to print a number. Yes, I know that the push splash to player node is missing stuff. Yeah, see, it's not printing it. I don't understand that. It's like... it doesn't make any sense. So that's why I am going to wait for Glenn. Well, and just work on the terrain right now. Because that's going to work eventually. It's just a matter of, you know, making it work. And I have to work with him on that. Like, for example, the sound effect I can trigger... I can actually make a collision box down here that whenever this object enters the collision box, it makes that hammer sound. And that way it only happens once on entry, and then it goes back up, and it'll come back down and make the hammer sound again. That's a really simple, you know, quick way of doing that, and it won't be a problem at all. But the it's that stuff up there that I'm struggling with. Let's see if actually, now that we're talking about it, let me check to see if he sent me any messages on Twitter. No, lots of notifications, but none from messages from him. Like I said, he's probably working. I only met him online, so I don't actually know, you know, anything about him all that much. So yeah, and only recently. So let's see. Only with Forge, pretty much. Let's see. So then the question now comes back to it. Do you think this is good or no? The map, the actual map is very green. There's a lot of green, like, sort of texture around. Like, the rock is very sort of a greenish hue to it, even. Or yellowish, kind of. And the ground is fairly green as well, but part of that is because of the lighting. All of the lights are yellow. Actually, those are white. That's interesting. I hadn't noticed that before, but like all of those are yellow light, and then these are pure white. It's really interesting. That must be why this area feels like it stands out so much. But the, yeah, it's just... like, it's clearly just gray ground. And I know that because I've also got the you know, I got a blender, I can just turn on the textures and see that it's just gray ground. But the I can't guarantee that these textures are perfectly accurate to the game because I didn't pull his 3D model out, and I also so I don't know if the rendering in Blender is going to be different enough from the game that it would actually shift the color, but it appears to keep the color correct. So with all of this, so I don't know. It's hard to say. Really hard to say. Let's see. What was your terrain question? Oh yeah, my terrain question is, should I use this kind, where you can change the textures yourself manually, which do not, like, they don't do this blending, or should I use the blending kind? As you can see, where these two match, like, the texture just continues on, because it's just projecting the texture onto these. And the texture it's projecting onto it is that texture. So it's literally just that is being projected like an image onto these, and it's really amazing. It's really high tech because, like, you can't even see, there's a seam here, like right around here. You can kind of see it in some areas because of the way I positioned the hills, but if you get them just right, the seam is gone. You can just completely disappear the differences, because if you get the polygons to be just, you know, their difference in angle is just subtle enough, then the textures completely connect together and your entire map looks better, like drastically better. And the problem is that there is no gray rock map. There's no, like, just stone based map in the game. Not map, what do you call it? Canvas. There's no just stone canvas. So I can't just, whoop, I didn't mean to hold that down. I was just trying to tap it. So if I want to make it gray and stony like the original Waterworks, I've got to use this kind, which does not do that. It doesn't project like that. It just has its own texture like everything else. So it doesn't feel as natural. It doesn't feel as, you know, high quality. And so that is the question: is should I go with this? Some areas may end up being a little bit like there might be a seam, it might not look as pretty. Or should I go with this, where I can eliminate every single seam on the entire map? Like, I'm confident that I could 100% eliminate every seam on the map for all of the terrain and make it look like a dev-made map if I use these. But the question is that too green for Waterworks' floor? And I'm like, it's basically an artistic question. Really is what it boils down to. It's a technically fueled artistic question. Is this terrain too green for the floor? You end up limiting your options if you go with default canvas terrain. Yeah, I do. I could always like have areas where I switch back and forth between the two. Like, you know, you can basically change the texture over here, for example, to match this really well, and then but like halfway match it, and then have another one that's just like this, where the seam and sort of blend the seam together. And if you do that you could really work that out too. So I could do a mixture of the two, but I'm just wondering if it's too green, if it's too much grass, or if it's just right. I don't know. Let's see. Let's work on the ice caps on the top. When you shoot them, they fall down. Oh yeah. The what do you call them? The stalactites. I definitely want to do that. I'm actually going to make them work exactly like in Waterworks for the main one. And for the remake, I plan to make them have... There's going to be different ones that do different things. I had in mind to have some of them based on how the map would benefit from them. Some of them I want to act like make the ground underneath it look like it's made of mud, and make it to where whenever it falls and hits the ground, it just sinks into it and just like stabs basically into the ground and stays there as a new column you just created. Some of them I want to just activate it as gravity, as a physics object like in the original, where it just drops and sort of dangles and or just like rolls around the ground. And some of them I want to make it to where whenever they hit the ground, they like crack apart or possibly even like explode practically, where as soon as they hit the ground, like it falls, and as soon as it hits the ground, it then breaks apart into multiple chunks and drops to the ground and rolls around. And or it splits apart like splinters vertically down the middle, and then becomes a bunch of these sort of like... Okay, buddy, just a minute. You want to play the Xbox? There you go, buddy. I'll turn on the TV for you, and I'll get it all sorted out in a second. I know, it's turning on. Just wait. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, basically have one of them splinter straight up down the middle so that the it breaks apart in like 1, 2, or 3, or maybe 4. Have them fall over and sort of become... If I sort of script how they fall, then they could become like trenches almost on the map, which would allow attackers to sort of shoot those down intentionally to give themselves cover while attacking the enemy base. But to make that not like... I was thinking on top of that in the glow-up version, I guess, is that I would put... not just do that, but also make it to where... I want to make it to where a sentinel will fly down, disintegrate the stalactite, and then where it hangs from the ceiling, it'll retract into the ceiling like a hex column and come back down with another stalactite, so that like every 5 minutes or something like that, after it's fallen and broken apart, like 5 minutes later or something like that, maybe 1 or 2 minutes later, it will sort of reset the map, so that you have to continuously make these strategic tactical decisions. Like if you're the defender, do you want to shoot that down so it falls on top of the enemy tank, or potentially does and destroys it? Well, if you do, you're giving the enemy cover, so if they're on foot, they can actually approach your base easier, or if they're on a smaller vehicle, you know. So that's the idea of what I had in mind for them. But then I ran into the script brain node limit, and who knows if I'm going to be able to actually do that. It shouldn't be too hard, because basically how you do it, or the way it works right now, is you put a stalactite up there. So I would block out a small terrain with both and make judgment after that. You might try to the green under the natural light from the cave openings and use rocky texture ones for the rest of the cave. That's a good idea. That's a really good compromise, I think. Because then I only have to work hard to wipe out the seams on like the half the map, probably. Oh, that's another thing about the design. By the way, let's see. If I were you, I would open a new map and lay a few pieces of terrain and make a mock cave with lighting on it before you make a terrain choice. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, just see if I can make the lighting actually look good with the green. That's a good point. Or even, I don't even have to make it a new map. I could just make it off to the side in this map and then delete it after. That's not a big deal at all. Yeah, that's a good point. That would definitely work. I was about to say, though, that in here, this is a weird thing about the original Waterworks that I didn't really remember was the case. There's only light on one side of the map. Hey, Freya, would you mind turning down the volume of that TV? I don't know if that's coming through the mic or not, but... Yeah, so basically, there's two holes in the ceiling, but they're both on the one side of the map. And then on the opposite side of the map, that's just Halo 5 playing in the background, so the sound effects shouldn't be copyrighted anyway, because I'm doing a Halo video and Microsoft doesn't care, so that'll be fine. My son is playing Halo 5 right now. Let's see, your seams aren't really going to show up harsh in a darker environment. That's true too. There are a lot of, like... My concern is, though, that with all the Forerunner lights here, I'll go to Master Chief Collection. Like, this light will make anything over here show up, and these lights over here are going to, like, cast harsh shadows across the ground. And when they do that, they're going to cause any seam that they're shining on to, like, they're going to be like a spotlight that's just going to shine right on the seam and be like, hey, look, here's a mistake. So that's why I was thinking that, because I had actually started... Before the game crashed, I had built out a perfect hill here and made it slope down here, and it was all with this kind. I wasn't with the natural, like, ground terrain that pulls from there. And I built it down here, and I was getting ready to put in the rocks here and build out the doorway that leads into the you know, that side structure in the bridge. And I was doing all that, and then what happened was my simulation memory down here in the corner said 0%, and I was like, that's weird. I was at 16, 17% at the time, and I was like, I definitely have taken up more than 0%. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna save it and quit and come back in. So I saved it and quit, and I came back in, and the save file had not saved, and it had not saved for 10 hours. It had not saved since I was streaming, basically. It was all off stream. I stopped streaming, kept editing the map, and since then it had not saved anything. I'd built all this out and stuff like that. Everything here was all done, and then it all undid, and it was very frustrating. And then this room, I kept on having further bugs where I kept on having to rebuild this like 4 times or 5 times because of the similar bugs, not the same one, but similar bugs. And it was all because my internet failed. It was all on my end. It wasn't. I don't think it was the game. My network had a blip because it does all the time. I get Cox digital cable, and they blip all the time and have trouble. And and something about the network dropping, but like maybe not all the way dropping, like fluctuating, messed up my connection to the server, and that is why I believe it went to 0% on the memory, and then also would not save. But yeah, your seams aren't really going to show up in a harsher dark environment. Oh yeah, I already read that. But yeah, and so yeah, that's definitely true. I'm just concerned about those little lights becoming like spotlights, and becoming a problem. So here's my question. This is something I had in mind, was that I'm going to actually put a hole on both sides of the map. And that is because and I don't have to make them exactly the same, they could be a little different, but the lighting difference between the bright side and the dark side wasn't a big deal in Halo 2. Because in Halo 2, they had basically global illumination, and they just pretended like there was light, and they had these light rays as game objects that just were textures, and they sort of like glimmered with like a light ray would. The person that exported this from the game did not include the light ray texture, so unless they literally just used these. But the point is that so they didn't have a problem with that. If I'm going to use dynamic lighting though, and bake the dynamic lighting and make it really cool, and look like a proper Halo Infinite map, this side's going to get real dark. The side that has no hole is going to get really, really dark. And then this team is going to have an advantage, or have a disadvantage, because it's going to be bright, so they're not going to be able to leave. Well, okay, they're gonna have an advantage at seeing incoming attackers and a disadvantage on hiding to defend their base. Like you're gonna spot their shooters really quickly. The red outlines, the outlines for enemies and stuff like that, mine are red still. I just left them default. The outlines are also going to make that not as big of a deal. So then I don't know. Should I keep the dark side and the light side or not? I guess that's another thing where I need to test it by building out a cave, and and doing it like that, because that's going to be a pretty big question. So I think that's probably what I should do next, is build out a cave. I usually stop streaming whenever my kids wake up because I got to give them food and all that kind of stuff, and my kids are awake, so I'm probably going to have to stop streaming now and sort out and basically do that kind of stuff all off stream. I definitely just noticed that this corner and this piece are poking out too far because they're not lining up with this, and they're not lining up with that piece. But yeah, so I'll probably fix that. We're probably gonna have to end the stream now, and I'll build out those caves and I'll test out the lighting, like y'all are saying, and see the different colors. And I'll probably do that before next stream even, because and I'll leave it there so I can show it off and show my findings next stream, like tomorrow morning. But for now, I think I need to probably sign out and do the rest off stream. So thanks for coming out, for watching, and I'm gonna see if I can get in contact with Clint or later today and see if he can help me with the scripting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you want me to play Halo 5 for you? My son is 2.5, so him playing Halo 5 at all is kind of a miracle, that he can pull that off. The fact that he can pull it off at all is pretty big, pretty astounding, and play Halo 5. But yeah, he's 2 years old, so this is kind of, yeah. I do it on a separate map. Okay. Why on a separate map? What would be the benefit of that? I guess I could just build it on ground level on a separate map more easily. Is there a reason that it would be easier on a separate map? I mean, I suppose I could. I don't know. I just feel like doing it in here means I could fly over there, look at it, fly over here, do this, and stuff like that. You can render the lighting and whatnot without impacting your current map. Oh, right. Rendering the lighting can break the map. I forgot about that. Yeah, no, good call. I forgot about that. It does create, like, a buggy situation. So, yeah. So like I was saying, yep, okay, I'll do that off stream. You're right, I'll do it on a separate map, and I'll catch you guys next time with that, because yeah, gotta feed the kids. All right, thank you. I'll catch you later.